I think Kyle Shanahan has seen what he needs to see from Trey Lance. It's not to say he doesn't want to see improvement or that Trey Lance can just he's not on scholarship, to use the John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh phrase. But I get the sense when he talks about him and just watching him,
No sacred cows, bro.
no sacred cows. I don't get the impression that Kyle Shanahan is waking up every day wondering, what do I have? I think he has a really good idea right now what their offense is going to look like this year and what it's going to take to win. And I don't think he wakes up every day or in the middle of the night wondering, is my, like, big picture, I think he wonders. But I think he's got a pretty good idea of right now what he's got and what he's going to have to do around Trey Lance to win. I think you heard it the other day when Kittle was talking to McAfee, and I don't remember exactly the word he used. You might remember, but he basically said, if there are some growing pains, fine. Like, we got a good team around him. I think Kyle's pretty at ease. Kyle said today, I expect Jimmy to be traded. And it wasn't like some grand statement. He was just like, yeah, I expect Jimmy to be traded. If it's not, well, we got to figure it out. But I think he in his mind,
USFL or
I think he in his mind, when he sits down to think about the season, I think he sees what the offense is going to look like already. I don't think he's holding his breath.
Well, I do not think it's random that they took a running back really high. And when they already have a guy they drafted last year that looks like a stud in Elijah Mitchell. And another guy, which I'm not going to totally write off just because he had a rough rookie season, in Trey Sermon, who was a higher draft pick than Elijah Mitchell. And, just talking with John Lynch at the practice, they clearly, like a lot of people in the NFL, really like this guy from LSU. They're going to try to shove it down people's throats. Because the easiest way to overcome a rookie quarterback, and when I say overcome, and I know he's not technically a rookie, but you know what I mean, is to make it easy on him. Right? When you watch the Patriots last year, like, how did they win 11 games? They ran the shit out of the football and they played defense. Like, ultimately, that's what Kyle dreams about doing anyway. I actually don't even think it's like you could give him Lamar Jackson or Mahomes. I still think his mindset, his fundamental philosophy on football, I would imagine hasn't changed in like a decade. Do you? Like, I mean, what they really want to do, like what he lives to do, shove the ball down your throat. And the pass game, honestly, easy passes. Like he likes some plays that like Lincoln Riley types, like the quick screens. He just likes high percentage stuff that when he knows, and the guys, like, listen to him talk about football when you're just in there and he doesn't even realize, like, the guy is a fucking genius. Like and part of it is he's obsessed, like he's addicted to the sport of football. And he's been taught by his dad, like the way he looks at it. And someone asked him today, how do you draw a play? And what did he first say? I look at the defense. And that's how his whole, now, maybe a lot of coaches would say that, but I think I never think about it like that. It's pretty simple. I base what I'm going to do based on what you're doing. And once I scheme against you all week long, I have a pretty good idea what you're going to do. And when I know what you're going to do, I'm going to draw up the easiest possible plays. I'm not looking to, ultimately, like, love Coach Reed likes to get a little out there, And it's not because he's trying to prove how smart he is. He grew up with fucking in the early 80s in BYU. They were bombs away. Like, that's just kind of his football philosophy. Kyle's philosophy is like, when you give me a number game, I'm going to slam it, whether I got Matt Ryan or whether I got Trey Lance. And ultimately, and this is where I give him credit, they really value defense. Like, he drafts a lot of defensive guys. They've invested a lot in defense. They obviously have really good defensive players. So if you tell me, like, remember a couple years ago, it might have been Lamar's the year he won the MVP. Maybe it was his rookie year. Well, I guess it would have been a second year. They like led the league in rushing. And I think they basically equivalent did for like a couple years. The Eagles did last year. Like, I think that's kind of how they want to play, with a little bit more of an explosive passing game. But if you tell me they want the Niner version of what the Eagles were, dominating on the line of scrimmage, run the ball down your throat, and be physical. Now, the Eagles benefited from an easier schedule, but when you really look, like, they kind of built it around Jalen Hurts. Now, hopefully, obviously, Trey's better than that, but I think that's kind of their philosophical. We know what Kyle's philosophical belief is, but I'm saying really stick to it and not make Trey, like, under no circumstances do they want Trey to me throwing over 35 times a game.
That would be very high.
Extremely high. But even once he becomes a really good player, I think his philosophically, it's not really how he wants to play. You
No,
might get running backs killed.
yeah, I mean, I think one day what happens in the ideal world for Kyle Shanahan is his quarterback can make plays outside of what Kyle schemes. But if they can run the ball, then I think he's really confident, and I think there's I think there's reason to be confident based on his history that he can find open throws. And that's where Trey Lance's accuracy comes into play.
Yeah.
Is there are going to be plays, and if you've watched Kyle Shanahan, you know it's a fact. There's going to be a couple plays a game that he is going to get you a guy wide open. Now, maybe it's not always, a touchdown level play, but there are multiple plays a game where he's going to get somebody wide open. And the quarterback just has to lay it up, right? It's going to happen. It's a guarantee. We see it all the time.
It's happened his whole career since he's been here.
And part of the reason it happens is what? Like, this is all a circle. It's because they can run the ball, right? The double pass touchdown to Juwan Jennings against the Rams.
Great play.
You were there. Was so open. He almost was the result of all the other stuff they were doing working constantly.
Would Darren Ruff have caught that? Probably not.
Would it overrun? It's a baseball reference, kids. But that is a play that some offensive genius guys will have in, and we just got to get it in. We got to get it in. We got to get it in. When they run it, it's so stunning because it's so out of the normal what they do. And I think that's what makes Kyle Shanahan a fun play caller to watch, is that he is somehow, creative, and he does take risks, but his bread and butter is still, like you would say, Jim Harbaugh was more just the bread and butter without probably the chess playing creative play calls.
Well, because Jim was very dependent on his coordinator, and as Kyle mentioned today, like without saying it, he kind of said, like, I already miss Mike McDaniel because now I'm doing this shit. Right. I mean,
he's very practical outlook. Like, I miss him because I have to do things I haven't had to do before.
Yeah.
In a long time.
Because ultimately I am the play caller and designer, so I need the help around me. And do you think that when he mentioned that with McDaniel gone, why he said, I mean, obviously every year you go over scheme, but I bet they've dedicated a lot of time over the last month of coaching the coaches, like as he kept saying, of like this. And I think he's talking specifically to Greasy, Kubiak's kid. Like, this is what I need. Like, you have to be able to. This is what I need to focus on. This is where I need you to excel.
Yes, the most efficient way to help me.
Yeah.
I think it's a challenge. Like, one thing I didn't realize until I got older was that being aware of how you learn or how you do anything is really valuable. And it never occurred to me that I could be more efficient at whatever I'm doing if I figured out how my brain retains information. Like, what are the ways that I work and learn? It never occurred. You just try to, like, I don't know. They said read the book, so I guess they said take notes. I don't know how to do that. I guess
academia let us down, guy.
But and I get it. Like, it's hard to figure out how everyone and then tailor something to that person. But I remember when it occurred to me that, like, oh, if I figure out how I learn, then I can learn better. And I think what Kyle's saying is, for several years, because he's had the same assistants, everyone's known what he needs. He knows where his weaknesses are. His assistants know how to fill in those gaps for him.
His life, not that his life's been easy, but he even mentioned, like, what we did 12 years ago.
Yeah. He's like, oh, no, I have to tell people the reason that we don't do that is because 7 years ago we tried it and it failed. But for me, I remember when I was doing, do I still have this here? No. But, like, when I was doing calling games on TV, and I would make a big version of, like, a board, I would make the board. Okay. You've seen what my, like, board looks like. I'd make the board, and then I would be like, cool, I'm done. I'll just go do the game. But it didn't work. Like, in my mind, I thought I made the notes. They must be sticking in my brain. But then the game would start, and I wouldn't know where to find anything. Like, I'd put it on the board. I'd done all the work. Then the game would start. The real bullets would start flying. I had not 8 seconds, 8 milliseconds to find one piece of information that if I didn't use it, then it was gone. It was going to be useless. And I couldn't find it. And then it occurred to me, oh, wait, after I do the board, I should probably, I don't know, like familiarize myself with it, And some people don't have to do that. Some people write it once, they got it.
Yeah.
Me, nah, I got to like look at it again. And
we're dumber.
I definitely am. Like Ted Robinson, I've always he doesn't put anything on his board. He just remembers it. He just does it. But I'm not like that.
Well, he's a Notre Dame intellect.
He's a smarter person than me. That's
some people legitimately have, it's not when they talk about Luck, the photographic memory, like that's real.
Andrew Luck.
Who did I say?
No, you said Luck.
Yeah, Andrew Luck. You remember photographic memory? Like he could see things. And obviously smart people, when they have that's a pretty big advantage. You know why? They don't have to study. And when I say they don't have to study, like they just read it once. If I had a test, I'd have to read, again, if I cared about my grade, I'd have to read it many times. Some people just, whether they even care about it or not, and that's the thing with Kyle, his knowledge of football and understanding is pretty incredible. Like the Niners are pretty lucky to have him. That's one takeaway I had, like this, in a sport that's so hard to find a good coach, I mean, they just have one of the brighter guys going. Now, they've done a good job. You need good players to be a good coach, and obviously now the quarterback. But, I mean, we've been watching him now up close and personal for 5 years, and just his teams now in big games. We've seen it all, right? The scheme stuff, the preparedness stuff, how much he values toughness. He brings a lot to the table. Now, this year's going to be a challenge because as he mentioned, like he's losing those guys. It's going to be a little bit work in progress. Maybe that first month game planning, like Brian, like I need you to do this. That's where one thing that hit me when I was driving home, I wouldn't say lucky, but I think it worked out pretty well that they didn't start like, Tampa Bay and the Rams first 2 games or something. You just get the Bears and the Panthers. Is that the Panthers' second game?
It's that road trip, isn't it?
Panthers and yeah.
Hold on. Let me check the board. You got Bears, John, Seattle. Yeah. At Denver, Rams, then at Carolina and Atlanta week 5.
Okay, that's, imagine they would not, if you said, like, would you rather go Denver, Rams instead of Bears, Seattle? Like, I think you want a nice ease in with this new coaching staff on top of the new quarterback. There's a lot of moving parts besides just Trey. I mean, Brian Griese's never coached at this level. Maybe he's coached like high school football or whatever on the side.
Well, Joe asked, anything stand out with the new coaches? I watched Griese just because I was watching the quarterbacks. It's hard to know in those moments. It's hard to take anything. The one thing that did occur to me as I was watching, Griese never hesitated when they were going from drill to drill. Like he knew exactly he had planned the drill. He knew what they were doing next. He'd run through them a million times as a quarterback. But he didn't look uncomfortable doing any of that stuff. He was doing the stuff that quarterback coaches do. Like he was working at ESPN doing ABC football. Like they were bringing him waters when he wanted them. It's a different lifestyle now.
Well, I would say though, it is. I would imagine he played quarterback since the time he was like 5. Played probably until he was 35. That's 30 years. Last I checked, his dad, a pretty famous quarterback. It's kind of like the family business.
Well, I know. I'm just saying he hasn't been the guy dragging the sled around before.
For sure. But he's seen it forever.
He's seen it. But this is to your point. When we walked up, you said, give Brian Griese a lot of credit. He's out here instead of doing whatever he could have been doing in May. I mean, it's golfing or poolsiding or whatever.
I would say part of it with him, not that it's not like he's coaching Matt Ryan or Phillip Rivers or, Manning, but you still, as a human, as a coach, you do need to earn the respect of your guys. So I give him. Some guys might have had like a equipment guy moving that shit.
Yeah,
I might have.
Yeah, would have had,
Billy, get it.
So that was, you asked what things do we notice from coaches? I'd say that'd be.
I mean, you even get remotely close to the D-line coach. He is on fire.